Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Perfect Sales Podcast. We're looking for what? Jim. Does better than anybody else today. In addition to that, I know Jim. I've hung out with Jim a bunch. We like to laugh and goof off and do stuff like that. And I like the guy because he's pretty straightforward. A lot of people nowadays are a little bit too soft. And so if you're too soft, tune out. This is going to offend you. And I sure hope we offend you because, you know, if you can either be right or get the results. Those are your options in life, right? So, I don't know. Without any further ado, I'm going to introduce Jim. Jim has done quite a lot of money in all of the teams that he's run and all the things that he's sold. Personally, to me, what stands out about Jim is we agree that there shouldn't be any such thing as just a setter or just a closer, but that whenever you're a salesperson, you just do whatever produces sales. That's your job. And then sometimes when there's enough volume, maybe you're only a setter because you're overwhelmed with leads. But you should be calling up your closers, people, and closing them if he didn't. Like, you should be doing everything that you can to produce money. So we're going to dive into some things together about sales and management and mindset and performance. Yeah, Jim, is there anything you'd like to say before we dive in?
No, it sounds good, man. I'm looking forward to just jamming.
Sweet. So we didn't dive into anything beforehand, so we're just kind of getting into it. You and I have talked about a lot of operating basis issues that sales reps have, that business owners have. From your perspective right now, not like 10 years ago or 5 years ago or a year ago, but right now, what is like the biggest issue that you're seeing? And it could be with sales, it could be with marketing, but what's like the biggest issue across all the accounts that you're working with, all your clients, all that sort of thing, that you're seeing as like a common theme that I guess you could say is the root cause of their issues? What's going on that's causing pain?
Boy, there's so many things, but there's, as an umbrella topic, I believe there's a massive problem with people looking for information in all the wrong places, right? Whether it's Hormozy or Grant Cardone or Gary Vaynerchuk or any million of experts that are out there, everybody is looking for other people for the solutions instead of doing what you know works. And I don't understand that. We've done enough volume. We've generated $500 million worth of results. We're good at what we do. We've got evidence and track record to show it. Not that all of the expert du jour isn't rock star. I respect all of them. I respect everybody who's putting out content. I believe there's truth in all of it. But we know what works because we've done it. And then we look when things aren't working, then we look for a solution. And so now we go, hey, here's what we've done. Here's what works. Here's how we know it works. And very few people can actually say that. They say, well, here's what I'm doing because so-and-so said to do it. Here's what I'm doing because somebody else did $1 million launch with it. Somebody else did this, somebody else, or someone told me, or, you know, I find that very few people have really original thoughts. And it's a problem. I think it's a function of the social media age and all the stuff that we're living in, because people's thoughts get put into their head from everybody else.
Yeah, I agree with that. So I'm working with my first sales team as like a consultant. I've obviously sold on them. And to that, I think that's phenomenal advice or phenomenal perspective because I'm on this team, and the only thing I'm doing on this team, I am not implementing things that, like a large list of things that worked on other teams. I'm not implementing a large list of things that worked for me as a sales rep. I'm not trying to give them my way of doing things. What we did first is we went through all the information and data from all their sales calls and just saw what they did and what they've done historically that already works. And then we standardized it. So I didn't implement any of my own techniques. They were already asking questions. And one of the biggest things in business is you want to feel important. You want to feel like it was your idea. or you want to feel like you were the creative person who came up with the answer, because that's what you see from people on social media is they seem like the creative person who's coming up with all the answers. But really, the easiest way to succeed is just find what works, do more of it, and keep doing it and never change it. And it's going to be really boring. And you should just change your attitude about it and choose to make it a fun thing to do the same thing over and over again. It's just like a man on the railroad hammering in the spikes. You know, it works really well when you have 4 guys around and you go hammer, 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 all in a circle, and it hammers in the spike real fast. And and then one guy's like, "Hey, what do you guys think about?" And he starts making changes and implements all these new ideas. And in fact, no, the railroad would get done faster if we just kept doing what we know works. And
But that's the key word, the key phrase. What we know works. Not that it worked. You need to know why it worked.
Yeah.
Too.
Right? Yeah. You got to inspect.
You see a guy, you see a guy shoot, bank a 3.
Yeah.
He thinks it was a good shot. It wasn't a good shot. It was great that it went in, but you can't replicate that unless you did it by design. Right?
Yeah.
So just because it went in doesn't mean it was a good shot. Right?
Yeah.
Which is fine. It just means you need to make sure you adjust for it. So it's always understanding.
Now, if he could duplicate that bad shot, though, let's say you're my basketball coach, and I have a silent basketball I got. So I'm shooting my basketball, and I do it terrible. I shoot it straight. It's not parabolic. I don't have the right trajectory on it, but it bounces off the backboard and goes in. Right, and we've seen those shots, right? It's not your textbook shot, but it works, right? But let's say every time I'm shooting, as long as I shoot it that way, I make a basket.
Right.
Even though that's not textbook. It's like, well, that's... Now, if I obviously did the textbook thing in basketball, it doesn't exactly apply the exact same way as it does in sales, because I probably should do both. I probably should know when to use my fancy, crappy shot and know when to apply... the classic, you throw it up.
It all works. But here's the difference. And what we're always looking for, and I guess it's also the difference is, where are you in your stage of growth? I'm always looking for, I've learned in my years of wisdom that I've learned for the hard way for most things, is that instead of just doing it and then brutally banging my head against the wall to figure out the mistakes, I'm now learning to look for the trajectory of how can I do it now so it's replicatable from the beginning. And so what you're doing works. You couldn't necessarily teach it to someone else. And if it's broken, we can't fix it. We have to recreate it. Right. So if you're shooting with good technique and fundamentals, if you're off, we know all the areas where it could be off. If you're just shooting a customized John Schutte bank shot, then when it's off, we can't modify it. We now have to.
Yes, I totally agree with that, because like the way I run my sales calls, I would never tell a sales rep. Like I have too much, like not too much. I just have so much certainty that someone's going to close that's what closes them, and it doesn't matter anything else that happens in the call. As long as I have the intention to close them, it happens every single time. It doesn't matter the words I use. It doesn't matter how I start the call. I ask one question, what's your intention? As long as I get that answer, that we're good. But if I was to give that process to a sales rep, like it's too, because I've gone through like 300, 500 plus hours of communication training in person to where like I know how to put an intention into somebody else to buy. Right. That's it. But he doesn't have that, right? So it would be unrealistic for me to give him my process. I don't teach sales reps how to sell like me. I teach sales reps how to sell how they should sell, right? Because I'm doing the crappy John Schutte doohickey throw with my calls, and it works, right? But if I was to, I don't know, take higher volume, because obviously I don't need to do as many calls, one client, big client, then cool, we're good. Now let's fulfill on the client, keep growing each month. But whenever you're scaling something, it does need to be duplicatable. But I've also found that like I've been on a sales team where I'm closing well and I'm doing good, and my style is entirely different from another sales rep style, and it's entirely separate from another sales rep style. And actually, that's what I'm kind of learning right now is like if you take what works about all the styles and make that the standard thing, you always ask these questions. You always get this data in every call, and you use the average across all calls as your basis of you could you could still standardize everything. So yeah, no, I'm falling in line with what you're saying.
It's interesting because even the word average, I find that stuff is words matter, and I think people throw so many words out there, and 90% of them don't matter. Average is a dangerous word because people will say, "Oh, 80% of businesses fail. 80% of all businesses fail. 95% of the companies we work with win." So I don't care what the data is. I care what our data is.
Yeah,
Right?
totally.
And that's where people get stuck. They go, well, the average is, 95% of people won't make it. But that means 5% did. Why don't we just do what they did? Or,
That's pretty easy.
It's like, look
Yeah.
there. Well, that's my default. But that's not, everybody tends to go, well, Hormozy said this. Cardone said that. Tony Robbins said this. Whomever. It's like, well,
Yeah,
what does that have to
it's
do with
taking
you?
advice over data.
What does that have to do with you?
Yeah.
You have a reality. You've done something 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times. What happened 150 of those times when you got the sale? Let's focus on that. Not
Yes.
what your reminder said.
Yeah.
No offense to anybody. They all have their own ways.
No, like I really like a lot of what all these people have to say. But it's like, okay, if I go apply Jeremy Miner's framework, which I use some of what he teaches, I know some of my guys have gone through his programs. I've gone through 2 of their programs, NEPQ 2.0. I'm not like a sales coach. I'm a mindset coach, and I'm just, taking out the crap. I really like how he structures a call. I think in any sales framework, if you were to just go, problem, pain, solution, consequences, cost of inaction, pitch. It's going to work out no matter which collection of questions you're asking, as long as you're collecting the data that's for that chunk of the call. Okay, let me collect all the data about your problem. Let me collect all the data about what solutions you've tried and are looking at, right? But that's where it goes, like, because we're looking at a setter team, and the show weights were really low, and then all we did is we just took a look at what every single showed and closed call, like the setting call, had in common, and was exactly the same across all setters. And then we only use that as the script, and it's a checklist. And if you don't follow the checklist, we can almost guarantee there's not going to be a show. And while the show rates aren't perfect, that alone. So if anybody's watching this, you can do this right now. If you find the similarities, differences, and identities. Identities are things which are exactly the same, right? Identical. And you find that about the calls that are working, and you just document it. You can use AI to do this. We got the show rates from 20% across the team right now. It's about 50%, which in my book, that's a huge win. I know we want it closer to 70, 80. My show rates have already, for the last 4 years, have been like 80 to 100%. Depending on the role. And so we'll work towards that. But, that was an overnight change. It took 30 days to achieve that. Less than 30. It took 15 days. Started on December 14th. And then January, so far, that's where we're at. So for anybody who's watching, it's your data. You have the data. And if you don't, if you're starting a new business, you need to go do so much activity and close so many deals to have the data to know what you should change and improve. That's it. It's nothing special. It's no special advice. Like, for instance, let's say Jim, let's say you have a really good organic presence and you want to improve it. You might buy a course that teaches you some extra data about organic. You test it, see if it works, and if it works, you double down on it and do more of it. That's just adding a little bit more to your ability to promote yourself. You're not changing your whole business. A lot of the times people go to, you probably see this, they go to a coach, and a coach has their own method. So then they stop doing what they were doing, which was working, and they switch over to the methods, which is typically completely different from what they were doing that was working. And then they watch their business do this month over month over month, and they just roller coaster because they can't ever find a successful formula in their business because they don't look. They're basically running on emotions instead of data, and then obviously, like this
Yeah.
is what we talk about every
Well,
time
like I
we
said,
talk.
it's your data. Your data is always more important than the data. The first thing that I do if I go in to train a company, I don't look at scripts. We don't talk about processes and systems and qualifications. The first thing that we do is we have all the team gather testimonials, 5-star reviews, case studies, and then they start reading them. And they are reminding themselves of how awesome this company is, of how
That's pretty
great
cool,
the
man.
solutions are, about how much wonderful things people say about them. Because everybody knows how to sell. And they didn't forget how to sell. They forgot why the hell they're doing what they're doing. They forgot what mattered. They got in a rut. They got in a routine. They got off track, or they're dealing with personal stuff at home. It's almost never, you need a better script. You can give them better
No.
script. It's always like rule number one in our world is who you're being matters more than what you're saying. Right?
Yeah,
Always.
totally.
It's not what you're
Yeah.
saying or what you're doing. It's who you're being while you're saying or doing it. That always drives the needle more. And so, like with me, our sales managers and stuff, they'll listen to my calls, and they get frustrated because they're trying to replicate me.
They're trying
And
to
they
be you.
can't, because I don't have the same call twice in a row. I'm not like, here's the 5 things I say every time, and here's the things we do. I go where the conversation needs to go, and they're trying to replicate it. I'm like, you can't be me. You have to be you. Right? Let's just get you crystal clear about showing up with the certainty, the confidence, the certainty, the clarity, so that you can be compelling. That's where compelling comes from. Right? When you show up with authority, confidence, certainty, and clarity, people go, oh, that's it. It makes sense. I get why you're doing it. I need to follow what you're saying now because it makes sense, because you're
Yeah.
drawing those people in to a different reality and sharing your point of view and your narrative and selling it to them so they see, yes, I need to think differently. This is what it is. That makes sense to me. Right?
Yeah.
It's just fascinating. It's an amazing science. And there's anytime when somebody says, this is what you have to do every time, you're already losing, because there is no such thing.
Be yourself every
There are
time.
very
That'd be a
there are
good.
very few things that will ever show
Yeah.
up that you must do every single time.
Wear clothes.
Yeah.
Probably wear clothes to every sales call.
Or, but you know what? We had a client who was selling sexual intimacy, and we had a room full of 600 people, and we were selling sexual intimacy experiences, which was like way out of my comfort zone.
Yeah. I bet.
Christian guy. I'm like, what is this? But what I found, I prayed about it. I was like, God, these aren't my people. He's like, but they're my people. Just go love them. Just go do what you do. And so, okay. So I went, I showed up, I showed people, I shared with them. I got them to understand. Almost all of them were there because they had gone through, they've been, abused as children, molested. They had sexual issues because they had sexual issues. Right.
Yeah.
And so they need somebody to show them that someone cared and that there was a solution for them. Right. I didn't have to sell them sexual intimacy. I had to help them understand what they're doing matters, what their problem is real, and that it doesn't make them bad or flawed, just that there's something here for it. Right. It's just like every other sales conversation, not any different. I just had to meet them where they were.
Yeah. Was this all like they were supposed to all be sexually intimate with you?
No,
Or
I wouldn't fly.
oh man. All right. Okay. So let me ask you one question. This is a question I told you I would ask you, which is, what are you doing that's perfect? That like, if anybody took a look at it, probably couldn't be improved.
There's a couple of things. Follow up is number one. Follow up is it probably could be my middle name.
Do you have a specific? Because I like specifics. Like, what are you doing that's perfect about your follow up?
Well, number one, it's a process that's documented. Number two, it's the different. Just so we understand, follow up and pipeline. We talk about pipeline work in sales. Pipeline is not something that comes from a CRM. Pipeline is a salesperson function, right? Nurture is what comes from a CRM. Your pipeline, working pipeline, is you in a post-sale opportunity experience with people. So the moment you put an offer in front of somebody, from that moment on, your job is to be relevant and top of mind as long as they're in your world, exploring the possibility of solving this problem. And so you have
So
to
that's
deliver
after the sales call.
after the sales call. Up until then, that's a funnel, right? Once you get to a sales call, that's pipeline. Everything is
Okay.
the moment they're there, whether they buy 3 days, 3 years, or 3 months
So
down the road.
what's
So
the
your job is
structure?
to curate that journey and make
Yeah.
sure that they always know why they're in this conversation and what you're doing about it. So because that people if people don't understand that the buying cycle is longer and more arduous now than it's ever been. And the majority of people are not going to buy from you today. They're going to buy from you tomorrow unless you're not around and relevant and valuable and top of mind for them to buy tomorrow. Because what's going to happen is they might have an idea that you could solve their problem. They don't know enough about you yet to know that they should. They haven't got the right thing. They're still working through issues or whatever it might be. And then you might call once or twice or send some random email, but you are not treating them every day as if they're the person that they were when they showed up in the first day. Most of us we drop the intensity. The further we get from them, the less intensity we bring to the opportunity. And so the first time you showed up, you were 100% of you. The second time, maybe 80%. And by the time you're reaching out to them the 10th time, it was just something you did to check off your list. And then guess what? Someone on my team's talking to them as if it was 100%, because we treat them all that way because we know at some point it's the day that matters the most to them to solve it. And the place where I learned this the most was when I had I used to have an alarm company, ADT, and we would go to neighborhoods and we would get cussed out and kicked off of doors at times. Get the hell out of here, right? And then the person who was absolutely most vehement about you don't ever come to my door again. We come back to that neighborhood 3 months later and there was a robbery down the street and he was chasing us out the door. He's like, oh, so glad you guys came back, right? Station and life changes for everybody all the time. So you let them go through that stuff. We still show up as if it was the first time, as if it matters, as if we cared, as if we know their journey. And if he still chases us off, it's okay. Because the next time we come around, he'll still have the opportunity to chase us off. Because we're here, we care, we're showing him, hey, we're back around because we've seen some other things going on. We wanted to make sure you were there. We build it into our process so when the alarm techs come in to install, they're installing the house across the street from the get off my porch guy, and the installers go across the street to let him know, hey, I just want you to be aware. We're installing alarm across the street. If you hear any noises or sirens going off, don't be alarmed. We're just taking care of them. If you're interested, help let us know. We're showing them consistently, no matter what. You can run us off if you want to. We still care. We still care about you. We still care. It doesn't matter what you do to us because it doesn't matter unless you're, with of course exceptions around crazy human behavior, but if that's the perspective, and then once you have that perspective, now your job is to document a process that ensures that happens consistently.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. And
That's
so
pretty
that's what we
cool.
do in the sales world here. It's the same thing. It's that we first design what are all the problems, the mental solutions, the iterations of thought that they're going to deal with after that first offer. Because it might be, you're too expensive. This isn't the right time. I don't know you well enough. Whatever the millions of reasons they come up with not to buy. Awesome. What are you doing to show them that you are the right person and that it's not too expensive? Because it's more expensive to stay where you are, or the cost of inaction, or here's other things because maybe they just need more social proof. So are you showing them that social proof, but you're not just saying, here's a testimonial. You're saying, this guy was awesome and he was where you were and now he's not. And I'd love to see if you're interested in this case. And if you'd like to talk to him, he's open to that too. But watch this video. This is him sharing what's going on. And if you're interested, we'll give you another demo. We'll show you what's going on. Or we'll invite you to this other event that's coming up. But it's always letting them know we care. There's no pressure, but we're here and we're not going away until you tell us to go away. Right?
What do you have I got that. Do you have a specific type of offer that we could use as an example to go through and kind of see how this is applied?
Sure. So if we have an environment that we call the high revenue business model. It's a place where we help people cultivate all of we have an entire system and process for building a sales foundation to dialing in the sales opportunity to selling one to many, to building in systems, recruiting a team, onboarding a team, training a team. So it's a whole suite of systems.
Yeah.
We deliver that entire system at an event, and then people hire us to implement and guide them as their chief fractional revenue officer to help implement over the course of a year or many years.
CFRO.
Right? Yeah, a VCRO.
Okay, got it.
And so if they're not ready for that, which many people aren't because it seems like it's a big thing, but we're here to show them consistently that our mission is if you're just looking for a little bit more sales, we're not your guy. There are plenty of other guys are. But if you're looking to add $1 million payday, $1 million revenue stream, a 6-figure payday, start building for something exponential, that's the journey we're on. So we're always having that conversation. And so what happens is when we talk to you and you say, okay, I'm not quite ready for that. I'm still working on my process. I'm still figuring out my offer. They don't know. We help them solve those things too. But what we do is we take all of our product suite and we have a whole catalog. And in the follow-up process, those all become asset files and we will drip them out. We'll say, hey, here's our offer pyramid. This helps you fine tune the offer that you might be working on right now. And we're also putting this together at our upcoming Income Infusion event. But here's a tool and a template. Feel free to implement or see if we can help you. Right. So we're sharing valuable resource. We're sharing, third-party case studies. We're sharing research from the internet. We're hearing headlines, what's going on, say, hey, there's an overwhelming surge of people in the marketplace that are confused about offers. They're confused about processes. They don't know who to trust. So as you're putting your offers together, make sure you're infusing trust. Make sure you're helping them understand that this is a longer process and don't promise them they're going to get a win tomorrow if they're not, right? It's unsolicited, relevant, value, top of mind. We're giving them tools, resources, and insight that will make them continue to want to open our emails instead of just becoming dead people on the list. Right? That takes focus, effort, intention, and design that most people just don't do. They're so busy just trying to find the next person to talk to that they completely abandon the people that they should be continuing the conversation with.
Yeah. Because you got like, you have so many people who are like, I was talking to a company, they do like help you qualify people at the beginning of your funnel, right? And get their credit score and all that kind of stuff. And I talked to one of the people who use that service because I want to become an affiliate of it, so I want to talk to some clients. And he's like, the majority of the leads, 75% of leads are disqualified. And then the other 25%, like the majority of sales are just made out of those 25% of leads. And then the rest of the leads just, like, you can't sell them anything. Like, sometimes you'll have people who are totally not in your market clicking on stuff. We used to do mindset coaching for coaches, consultants, and agency owners, and we'd get truckers and we'd get brick and mortar guys, contractors, and it's just like the majority of the leads are not going to be qualified. And I can tell you from all the DMs that I've sent, because I can see their profile. So I can know pretty accurately how qualified someone is based on their profile, and whether or not they're going to buy, because I've sent 20,000 plus DMs. So it's probably 25 at this point. So I know. I can tell you a 2-year, experienced sales rep from a brand new sales rep, from a 30-year sales rep, right? 30-year sales rep has gray hair. That's the only difference. So, but the thing is that whenever I used to send DMs, I'd have a hot list. I'd have a note card just like this, and I'd have like my 10, 15 names for the day, and I'm going to be hitting those people up all day. And I'm going to be hitting up other people, and I'm going to be adding people to that list. And as soon as I book someone, I check them off that list. And I'm trying to get that list to zero as quickly as possible. I'm trying to fill it up as quickly as possible. So that's really my only job throughout the day, is how do I find who's going to book next and who do I have to get booking next. And if I know that they're not warm enough to book and buy now, but if I send them through a couple of videos and follow up for 2 weeks, and I'll have it in my head, right? I didn't have this in a CRM. We didn't really use a CRM because it was all DMs. Yeah. But I know. I remember the conversation I had with them. I remember the problems that they have. And then every time I restart the conversation, I'm picking it up from that place of 100%. I'm like, you're the lead who I don't have infinite leads. I have let's say 15% out of 20,000, so 3,000, I think that would be. That's maybe how many people I'm really working with to try and get to buy. So I have to treat those 3,000 people like they're gold, like they're royalty. I have to take care of them far and above everybody else. Everybody else, I can let their DMs sit for a few days. I can let them wait because I know they aren't going to buy. I know they don't have money. And I know last year at this time they didn't have money. So it's just the story of their life, right? Winners win and losers lose. And unfortunately, your best shot is to only ever help those who are likely going to win. Because if you're trying to help the losers win, you're fighting an extremely uphill battle. They have to have had some wins in some point in life. You can't sell people who've only lost in life. There's no way in hell you're going to help them. They're just losers. And it's a factor of their mental state, and unfortunately, they don't have access to the things that they need to improve that mental state so they can win. So that's what it is. But to reiterate what you were saying, it's because you can follow up with everybody, but I don't think you should follow up with everybody because the majority of leads are going to be a waste of time to follow up with. If you know, like if I know someone's in a business, they've done 20 grand a month before, 30 grand, and that's who my target market is, and they're at 5 grand a month right now, then I should nurture them till they get back up to 10 and can buy. Like that's the right thing to do. But if I'm talking to the guy who's like, his profile pictures, like the guy's the color gray or something. Like his energy is just super low, and he has weird stuff on his profile. Nope, blocked immediately. I ain't talking to you ever again. Like I know how that's going to go.
But that's
It's the
also
same
a
way every
function
time.
of targeting, and it's how
Yes.
well you understand the people you're reaching out to in the first place. So we're talking about the people that once you get through your first measurements of, are you tall enough to ride this ride? And once you determine that they are, we have what we call a QR grid, and it's qualification and readiness. I very cleverly named it QR grid. And everybody is either qualified and not ready, ready and not qualified, or qualified and ready, or not, or neither. Nobody is every person you'll ever talk to is one of those four. And so we're always moving people through the grid. If someone's qualified and not ready, then the mission is how do we get them ready? If they're ready and not qualified, then how do we get them more qualified? And then if they're qualified and ready, now what do we need to do to put the right offer in front of them so they're going to buy it? Right. And if they're neither, then we just keep them down there, send them to the podcast until someday they become one of the others. Right.
Yeah.
But you have to have a measuring stick to be able to say, okay, these people are here and they have to be on a journey. And if they're the wrong people, then you have to adjust your targeting in the first place. But once they get to a place of showing up, having a conversation, putting an offer that makes sense, now pipeline begins. Now it's how do I get them in moving? And like you said, you should be able to identify what are the stages of readiness, need, and desire that they are in and moving towards so that you can then move them on that journey. And then you start building an asset file that supports it. And if you have an asset file that's got podcast episodes, tools, templates, recordings, white papers, third-party studies, President so-and-so said this.
What's a white paper?
A white paper is an old person term for like an article. Back in the day, that's like a corporate term. It's like, hey, white paper, it means I'm an authority person and I wrote an article, basically.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I've heard it. I just didn't know what it was. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah. You'll hear that more in corporate settings and more from older people. These days, it's just, you could literally call a blog a white paper. But
Yeah.
that's just the term.
I've never sold corporate, so yeah, and no chance I was going to know that one.
That's the difference. So when we talk about what do I do perfectly, that's what we do perfectly. Here's a number that I'll put on the table for you, and this is something that most people just struggle with. Your back-end sales should be 60% of your sales or more. Your follow-up,
Back end, what do you mean by
back-end.
that?
Back-end meaning everything past the first offer. Meaning if you're making most of your sales from front-end clicks, meaning you're getting them from a click to a buy as fast as possible. If that happens more frequently than sales after somebody has made the first offer, you're doing something wrong because those people are just dying on the vine. You should, because the more people you're working pipelines with means the more of those people will buy. Those people have a greater opportunity to buy than the person who just stepped into your world today. Because if they're in your world and still opening emails, still watching things and still paying attention,
They're interested.
That person's interested. You just haven't pulled the right trigger yet to get them across the finish line. And so the more that happens, then that back end should just be getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So it's an inverse funnel. Like what happens for most people, and I could draw this up, but on my whiteboard, most people, you have a big wide funnel at the top. and then it comes down narrow. Then your offers get here, and then you only have one basic follow up pipeline. So big at the top, narrow at the bottom. Our funnel gets big here. Once we come to the offer, it's narrow, and then it gets huge at the bottom because now we have many lanes of follow up, depending on where you are in your stage of readiness, need, and desire to move. And then over time, that becomes more and more and more. And then when they buy, where did they buy? Is there the upsell? Is there the cross sell? How are you keeping them in your world long term by design from the beginning? So we call it the 90-10 fallacy, because everybody out there is spending 90% of their time, effort, energy, and resources trying to go from click to cash as fast as possible. But 90% of your revenue comes from the back end. So why are you putting 90% of your focus on the front end when 90% of your lifetime value is on the back end? So we spend 10%, we spend more than that, but 10% is on the front end. We're still generating leads and we're still focusing, but we put all of our effort in what happens after they come across the threshold. So we're consistently building on that back end. And then that's how you reduce client acquisition cost. You reduce churn. You take yourself out of I have to go get new leads every single day all the time thing, because you have so much that you can feast on from what's already here on your list from people who've already told you they're interested in something. And most people take the wrong approach. They just think, oh, well, if I get 10% of follow-up to close, if you get 10% of your follow-up to close, you're not doing follow-up.
It's pretty good.
That is my story. I'm sticking to it. We've been doing it forever. When I was in mortgage, when I was out in the sales game, I always had different sales jobs. I worked for a lot of different people because I was that guy who's been fired from every company in town or quit because I always saw how stupid they were and they could do something better, and they never wanted to hear something better. They let me shut up and do your job. So that's why I work for myself. But what we would do is I would go in. My number one rule, if I went into a shop anywhere, I would go to all the top guys who were closing, and I would say, give me all the people who you need to follow up with, and I will follow up with them. And we split the sale. 100% of the time they say yes. And I would go follow up, close sales. That was how a new guy gets fast sales, right? You find stuff that's already warm, already in the hopper, get those sales, split them. Now I got pipeline, I got revenue, and then I can start getting more new leads to start. But instead of starting on cold stuff from the beginning, because you know why everybody said yes to me? Because they knew their follow-up sucked and they wouldn't do it. And I already had process for it. And then I think like a business owner, even when I was just a salesperson, I recognized I was always in the business of sales. And so from day one, I knew that I didn't like CRMs, and I didn't like, well, back then there weren't CRMs. We had, we were the CRM, index cards, phone books. That's how we did sales back then. But I knew that the data was always going to be important, and I wasn't going to be the guy that was going to keep track of it. So I always hired my own assistants from the beginning. When I was in mortgage, even though the company had multiple processors, I hired my own because I needed her to make sure I didn't drop anything and that I didn't look bad, right? So being in
These were in person, or what was they were in person assistants?
Yeah. Back then, there were no virtual assistants. There was barely even internet. So
that's pretty cool.
Always I had my own person. Once up my job to close the deal and then hand it off to my processor, so nothing dropped. That was all.
That's pretty cool.
I would take a loan app, a 1003. My processor would take care of everything, walking across the finish line. And if the client needed anything, then I would have to call them, get something handled. But I did nothing. I didn't want to because someone else could do it better. The part I did best was talking to people, closing deals. And so that's
pretty good.
Same thing now. That's why I have a team, because I know what metrics need to be tracked and what should be done and what things we need to put in place. They know how to build them and create them and do all the, which apps are going to do what for it. So I let them. I just say, let's make sure we give me good, real numbers that we can make decisions with.
That's pretty cool.
Right? But you got to follow up like relentless, but not just bothering people. Have a strategy, a process, a plan, and a system that delivers it. A system that keeps you on point with those people, keeping you relevant, valuable, top of mind, and in people's world. They will continue to buy from you. And if they don't, they'll buy from me. I'm okay with that.
Take it. only the strong survive. So if you're weak, you'll die. That's what you get. So you have to stop being weak if you want to win.
Yeah.
That's it. That's your option. So then what? I forgot the other question I had. That answers my first question. That was really good. Which is, what are some pieces of data that once you got them, made all the other things that you had learned or been training on, or like, and this is at any point in your career. What are some pieces of data that once you got them made everything else click together?
One of them is the 90-10 rule that I talked about, the 90-10 fallacy. Once I recognized that 90% of my revenue come from the back end, then I got maniacal about fixing the back end instead of hoping for the front end. The other is the compound effect of action. What I recognize is that if you do something diligently daily, it's not addition anymore. It's multiplication, right? So compound effect, that's why it's the eighth wonder of the world. It's like it just keeps adding on top of itself, and then it becomes a multiplication formula, not just straight line, depreciation. And if you call 10 people a day, and we know you call more than that, but let's say you call 10 people a day. Tomorrow, you call 10 more people, 10 more people, 10 more people. Pretty soon, people start calling you back from the other days. And all of a sudden, you start having this wave of activity that isn't just a one-to-one anymore. It's a one times, and it becomes a multiplication problem. And then you've created a tidal wave of response rate if you're consistent and diligent in putting stuff out.
Yes.
So it's not like you call 10, talk to one, call 10, talk to one, call 10, talk to one. After you've called 50, you now have 3, 4, 5 people who are starting to call you back or respond. So now you're in various stages of discussion with people. So it's understanding you have to stay consistent, and multiplication effect goes. TikTok is an interesting platform because their algorithm works very similar. I only have like 122 followers on TikTok or something silly. But I have some videos that have had 14,000 views on there because I started putting them every day. And then TikTok rewards the daily action, and especially if you start getting responses. And then it's also topic driven, not follower driven. So if you hit a topic that's hot for people, it sends it out to all those people. And then if you do that enough times, and then you do that consistently, now all of a sudden you can put videos out with 122 followers that can get 10,000 or 50,000 views because it's measuring the multiplication rate of your consistent action. If you just put a video once a day, once in a while, check it once in a while, you're going to get slow, small responses because you're not delivering an action that is going to multiply. So just remember, a compound effect of daily activity multiplies, it doesn't add. So pick something and do it like your life depends on it, and you'll be stunned at watching that go. Angelique Ruers, she's heavy in the corporate sales space, but she's a badass, and she teaches a concept called sending out ships, and it's based on like Queen Ferdinand, or trying to remember, I'm getting my history mixed up, but back in Columbus time.
Yeah,
right?
Columbus. Yeah.
And she would send out ships. Their mission was send out ships every day. If they send out ships, some of them will get eaten by the sea. Some of them will get destroyed by pirates. And others will find land and then find gold and find treasures and bring them back. So if you send out ships every day, then some of them come back. But if you don't send out ships every day, none of them come back. Right? But you have to be sending out ships every day. And your whatever you're doing in outreach or sales or opportunities or offers, if you make it a mission to make an offer every day, you will have so many follow-up offers over the next 3, 6, 9, 12 months because you'll be in various stages of response throughout that. Make an offer every day. And if you're good at this, you can make an offer for $1. Problem is, most of you guys are pussies and you won't do that because you only want to sell $10,000. I'll sell you a $1 offer because if I can get you to buy $1, I can get you to spend 100. If I can get you to spend 100, I can get you to spend 10,000. If I can get you to spend 10,000, I can get you to spend 100,000. Start buy something for $1. Right? You need to have that perspective. You need to have that patience instead of, I don't make a commission if I sell $1. Well, guess what? You're not going to sell the big guy either because this guy's going to be around longer to be a big guy, and that's your process. That's your responsibility.
Yeah, sell everything, man. Yeah.
Make it happen.
Yeah. Like I sometimes what was it a couple weeks ago? I think it was 2 months ago maybe. I just randomly I was like, I have these LinkedIn openers that like work really well. I get like a 30 to 40% response rate on them. And I just copied them all, threw them in a document and said, pay whatever you want. It needs to be more than $1. Right. And then it started a bunch of great conversations. Right. Or like there's a organic outreach called the Organic Machine. It's just a collection of really well done AI prompts that will help you build your entire organic strategy from understanding your market to knowing what to say to them and who to partner up with, all that kind of stuff. And that's $500. Did I get now? I sell organically to a very small group of people. I don't have a lot of emails, right? Most of the people who I work with have much larger lists and that sort of thing, right? But it's like now all those people are prospective clients. Every single person who paid me money, well, they had to have seen something that was valuable from me to want to pay me money. So let me go reach out to them and see what else they would buy because clearly they're a buyer. And that's the other thing. Exactly. Anybody who buys something is a buyer. This is a really good piece of advice that I got from Zig Ziglar. He was like, never make someone feel bad about a previous purchase. Right. Because it wasn't like, and this is how I put it, is like, it wasn't the previous purchase that was the sin. It's that it might not have been the right solution, but the purchase itself, you making the purchase and being willing to make the purchase was never the problem. You were trying to solve your problem, which is a good thing to do, right? But people who buy again. Like that's an indicator. If they're paying you money once.
We do this in workshops.
Yeah.
If you have 100 over here and 1 over here, all right, or 100 here and 0 here, and you put 1 in the middle, is 1 closer to the 0 or the 100 in terms of percent? Like what from a value perspective?
Yeah, do you mean dollars or do you mean one person?
$1, like a dollar, 1%. If there's 100% here, 0% here, and you put 1 on the map, most people are going to put the 0 right next to the 1, right? Right? So sorry, let me try this again. Okay,
yeah. Well, mathematically, 1 is closer to 0.
99 is what I'm looking for. 99%. Okay, so 99%. It's pretty close to 100, and that's what most people think it is. But 99% is still 1% not committed, right? If they buy something, they are now 100% committed because they have taken money out of their pocket to show, I want at least to see what this is about. Mm-hmm. If they won't spend $1, they are not even on the radar yet.
Yeah, right? It's like that's a really easy commitment too.
It's like if somebody who has spent $1 is 100% more committed than the person who has spent $0. They're not 1% more committed because the person who won't spend $1 is not committed at all, right? They're interested, and that's a good start. But that's not, the buyer is a buyer. And if they buy something, you can get them to move to the next step. So,
well, they're trying to solve a problem. They're paying money.
They're doing something.
It's got to be.
They're willing to bust out that credit card and put it on the line. Because how many times have you done it? I've done it. I go on, I try something out, I click on it.
I rebuy things that I forget the logins to.
but I will click on something that it will say, put your credit card in and it's $5. And I'll go, I don't want it bad enough to spend $5. So I'll just
exactly.
But if it's $5 and I'm, dude, I'll try this out. I want to see how this works. And then I'll hand it to somebody on my team.
So it's never the money. That's the issue. It's the value.
Yes.
Yeah. Money is never an issue.
So, but people got to be thinking about, I was reading the post you put up the other day. It was pretty cool. You had like 270 responses from your interview, some of your questions you've been having, like from the winners and the losers, the 20K people and not.
Oh yeah. That was, I posted that, I think 1.5 years, 2 years ago. It's my pin post on my
dude,
page.
I didn't see the 2024. I saw
Yeah.
Okay. So it was a week ago, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But a fascinating post nonetheless.
Yeah. So,
but that's exactly it. It's like, I know me and more people that have some success and stature. I record every day money that goes in our bank account
Mm-hmm.
because I'm just trying to see it. Even I got it. It's all on the apps. I think it's all digital. But we're right now. I'm recording every
Yeah,
transaction
I
comes
like
in
doing
and
the
out,
written version. Yeah.
just to go, okay, interesting. Why is that there? Is that there twice? Did I see stuff that you don't see? And it's not like we're miserly or any of that stuff. I just want to be so acutely aware of what's going on with our finances, with our business, so we can make really good decisions. But you know what other people are really focused on? How many points did LeBron score? How many points? What's the point spread in the playoff game that's coming up? Those are great things to know. That shit ain't going to move your business forward. It ain't going to change your life or help you measure how you're going to win in sales or what things need to get better so you can win more in sales, right? Get maniacal about the numbers. You need to know. Again, go
Yes.
back to this first question I said, do you know what works and do you know why it works? And if you can't answer those questions, stop everything else and get back to that.
It's very good advice.
You know, and I will tell you, you can say no if you're paying attention to this. You gotta screw this guy. I would
No, screw
venture
this
to
guy.
say that you don't have consistent, sustained success because everybody who we work with who've had consistent, sustained success knows all their numbers without exception. It's just
And that's what the post says too. Is like it's actually very simple. Know your numbers, be spiritual, and focus on mindset. Those are the only three things that I found in common. I didn't
Yes.
interview a lot of people, but they stood out as like the things that people who
100%.
perform well, but maybe don't ever accomplish anything great or important. Like, for instance, perform well, I mean, they could make millions, hundreds of millions of dollars. They're performing well, but they don't do anything important, right? The people who, like the lady who I talked to, she's probably a billionaire by now. That was 2 years ago. She might be, I don't know. But she's really cool. I like her. You know, she's very into spirituality. She likes hanging out with her dogs. She really enjoys her family. That's very important to her. And none of that ever had to get sacrificed. There's a misunderstanding. The sacrifices you need to make are the things that you're not doing that you should be doing, right? And you need to, like, if you're working on, for instance, like I started this podcast. If I do this every week, this will become a distraction to my business because I've never made money with podcasts before. I like to do it because the people who might hop on here might become JV partners, and that's actually how I've grown my business. So the thing that's valuable is that I might have a few people, 5, 10, 20, 50 business owners in my network, and a very small group of people. One of them might become a client of somebody who's done for you sales or some kind of team training or systems or this or that. That's cool, right? But a lot of the time, people get distracted. They have a new idea, right? They want to do a podcast. This is very common, I see. They want to do a podcast, and that's what they're going to do instead of doing what works in the business, right? And then they go on this whole tangent. I forgot where this originally started, but they go on this whole tangent, and then they look back, and they didn't look at the numbers. They weren't focusing on what they really should be doing. They were just focused on what they wanted to do. And then they wonder why their business doesn't grow, and it's very simply, they're just not doing what they should be doing. And there's no mystery to it. There's never any mystery to it.
Well, I
you
like
know?
the perspective that you shared, man. Like, you got to know the numbers. You got to have some purpose, right? And you got to have some, you got to have some faith, some spirituality. I call it Jesus, like my Bible. I roll with God. That's how we roll. I'll say this. You want to talk about pissing people off? I'm sure we're going to push some buttons on this one, hopefully. And I hate when people do that. So edit that part out now. I don't like when people post, this one's going to piss you off. I'm like, dude, you're not that important.
This is really going to piss you off. It's going to make you so upset. You're going to cry, and you're going to write me a hate mail letter, and I'm never going to read it.
So here's the deal. If you have skill, you can make money. If you can solve problems, you will make money. If you have purpose, God will ensure you make money, even if you're not any good at it, right? There's people right now who are not faith-based, who are not God-centered anyway, and they are crushing it in business. But like you said, at some point, they're not being serious about it. They're not paying attention, and they're not on purpose. And at some point, the person who is on purpose and moving, that money is going to end up over there, either through a massive business transaction or something will happen. It happens all the time. There will be something will happen where a windfall will come to the person who's been diligent, faithful, on purpose, doing good work, and working on enhancing and improving themselves. And then all of a sudden, this person who's been earning millions, all of a sudden something happens in a lawsuit, something comes, and the person who's been on purpose, all of a sudden gets windfalls. It happens every day, and you don't have to like it. I'm just telling you, be prepared for it. So make sure you're on purpose. I'm not going to say you got to roll with Jesus. I'm saying take a look. It's probably a smart idea, but make sure that you are living on purpose, because when you are on purpose, the universe will reward you. God will see to it that you're winning because you are enhancing his kingdom and his movements.
I think that's pretty good. I have one more thing to add, and then we can wrap it up. At the beginning of my program, there's something that people read, and it's a quote by Napoleon Bonaparte. It's, "The world is a very malleable place. If you know what you want and go for it with maximum energy and drive and passion, the world will often reconfigure itself around you much more quickly and easily than you would think." That's it. So I think that'd be a good place to end off. What do you think?
That's awesome.
All right, sweet. I'm going to go ahead and... where can people find you, first of all?
Yeah, you can find me on any socials, Jim Padilla, just my name as it's spelled right here. Find me there, and reach out if any questions that you've got about sales and scaling. If you are trying to grow a business, we specialize in designing your business to make money and to take the founder constraints out of the way, so that at some point you can have a sales team that isn't going to kill themselves trying to make sales for you, because of a simple process and a business that they can run by pulling levers.
Easy peasy. Well, go talk to that guy. If you don't do anything else, at least just do that.
Yeah.
And other than that, let's get out of here, man. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording and see you guys later.
Thanks for having me here.